Welcome to Eye on the Illini. Mike Kegley here with Kedrick Prince. We are going live after a second Illini victory. You know, Ked, I kind of enjoy this Illinois winning 2 games on one day. We should do this more often.
I know the women won last night. Kendall Bostic had a career high against Oregon State. The football team went out in dramatic fashion. Brett Bielema just manned up and stuck his chest out and went for it on 4th and 13. Then the basketball team came out today at the State Farm Center and did what they were supposed to against Maryland Eastern Shore. And, I mean, you had some nice performances. One performance from a guy that you and I just both absolutely love is Morez Johnson. I believe I think I'm 100% right. He had a double-double today, and he's improved his free throw shooting. So it's a good time to be an Illini fan right now.
Yeah, and we have a personal affinity to Morez because, folks, we both coached a lot. And one of the things that's hard, you really can't teach somebody, is the ability to give effort 100%. And Morez does that. And he's just a fun player to watch because he doesn't leave anything on the court. If he loses, you beat him. But he doesn't. There's never any like, well, I could have done this. I could have tried harder. Or I could have, done a little more. The effort's always there. Ked, I'm gonna talk about a couple concerns. Rickhouse, is he just starting slow like Domas did last year? Could be just no big deal.
Well, I mean, that's a good question to lead off with. I don't want to say I'm concerned, but it would be nice to see him make a few more shots. I mean, he played pretty decent offensively against Alabama the other night. He scored 11 points, I believe, but tonight he was 3 for 10 and 2 for 8 from 3 with only 9 points, and he played 22 minutes. I get it. I understand the concern for a lot of fans. My concern is me personally. The coaches are probably going to applaud it because I saw Coach Underwood clapping. They shot 43s tonight. They were 10 of 40 from three-point range. So, and we know Ben is a good shooter. Brad Sturdy, our colleague, talked about him being a pick and roll catch and shoot guy, not just a spot up shooter. So maybe that's going to take some time for him to adjust to it.
Yeah, and I thought I thought White played a little bit better today. I'm not saying great, but I think he needs to build his confidence because he's just got too much talent, kid, to not contribute.
You're 100% right. He has a lot of talent, and there was a couple plays he missed layups. He missed a dunk, and I think he's pressing. I mean, I don't know. The team going to the games in person, you'll see things a lot that you don't see. Sometimes the camera doesn't find, and you can see sometimes when he comes out, he's not mad at the coaches. He's mad at himself for missing bunnies, missing a putback. He had a nice play once where the defender bit one way. He went to the basket, should have finished the dunk, and it rolled in and rolled out. Those are all confidence builders. And I'm glad you mentioned him. What's tough for me in my job, when I see these kids play and when I evaluate these kids and I write articles about them, these kids produce, Trey White is a kid that produced, and he's in a new system right now. And I don't know what the reason is. Not because he's not very good. I mean, there's a reason that Brad Underwood's starting him. It's not because he's not a good basketball player. So, I mean, some of these kids are still pressing. I would like to see them just go and take Colin Boswell approach to what he did at Alabama. I'm just going to go out and play. I'm going to stop thinking, just go out and play and do what I can do and not worry about it, because at the end of the day, they're going to play. They have to play.
Yeah, I agree totally. If you come out of the game, because this, let's face it, this was a critter kill. That happens. Teams do it all across country, and Lord knows Brad's got a hell of a schedule here for this Illini basketball team. But if you're a coach now, what are you thinking, and what are you telling your team after this effort? What are you going to be working on next, especially when you think about they've got a relatively quick turnaround here when they go ahead and play Little Rock, and then of course. On Thursday. So again, not a lot of time here. They're going to be playing Arkansas on Turkey Day.
My thing is, you don't want to harp on this issue, but you want to make a statement to the players to be where they understand. They were 11 of 18 from the free throw line again. they shot 61%. That's a number that they should improve on. If they're a good 3-point shooting team, not 3-point shooting, they're a good shooting team. They should always, in my opinion, no less shoot than 70-75% from the free throw line. It just shouldn't happen, and I will give Morez credit. I mean, he's not great, but he walks up to the line today and he was 4 for 7. Typically when he went to the line, it was 0 for 2, 0 for 3, 0 for 4. So it was good to see him get a double-double today, like I mentioned, 10 points and 13 rebounds. But if I'm a coach telling my team, we have to take advantage. When we get opportunities to make layups or dunks, you finish them. Or if we get to the free throw line, we have to make them. Those are things that I personally will be telling my team, and also valuing the basketball. I'm not saying that, turnovers were bad today, because this, no disrespect to the opponent. Illinois only had 9 turnovers. If you could go a game with 9 turnovers, Mike, that's great. But to beat good teams, you can't miss 33s, and you got to at least shoot 70-75% from the free throw line.
Yep. Yep. I know that's one of the things that it's a challenge, because the free throw line is really repetition, so you learn how to shoot a certain way, and then you repeat it over and over, and then you make sure that you can do it when you're fatigued. And as a guy who shot 90% free throws, I have a hard time understanding how you don't make free throws. As we looked at what was going on, do you think the team is doing a good job of having players starting to know their roles and feel more comfortable with one another? Do you see improvements there?
I think I see improvements, but like I just mentioned, let's use Colin Boswell. He was a guy that was not playing his role. Then the last 2 games, he started to play it. But I want to make mention of this, because I think some of the roles may have changed, and maybe they were experimenting today. You and I have talked about seeing Ivisic and Morris Johnson play together. Today, Brad Underwood did that 2 or 3 times. I like seeing that. I've said it on the podcast. So, coaches, if you guys are listening, thank you. Appreciate it. Mike and I, we'll send you the bill in the mail, because it's okay to play them together, because they rebounded well when they were in the game together. Because what you do by doing that, and I give the coaches credit, Morez is more athletic, but I think Ivisic is more polished offensively. So if you got a wing or stretch 4, Morez can get out and guard that position better. Now, I'm not avoiding your question, but why I'm saying this is because Morez's role has changed. His role, he came into a totally different role today, playing with the big fella today. So I liked what they did with that. I think that's a good look. I think it's going to pose problems for people. I think it makes the game better for Tommy as well, because he can step out and shoot it and don't have to be in the post so long. So those players, I think those roles are changing, but they're evolving and they're learning. But Draymond gives Lawhorn his role. It's tough. I mean, sometimes he's getting, I don't know how many minutes he got tonight. Let me see here. He ended up getting, where's Gilbert Lawhorn? He played 18 minutes, and there's some nights he may get 8 or 9 or 15 or 20. So some of those roles are going to be different, Mike, for each kid or each player, each game, I think.
Yeah, and I do think that is something that will take them time to learn. I just, when you're looking at kids, that's one of the things that they, we look at it as adults, and it's not a big deal for us, but for kids it is. I thought it was also a night for Kasparis as well. I thought he played well, and I will say he continually amazes me, because he isn't really like a ball hog that you would anticipate. He only takes 7 shots. And I think he is willing, with 7 rebounds, 4 assists, he's willing to share the ball and do the tough work as well.
Here's my thing with Kasparis. I have a hard time. Well, how do I say this? Figuring out his game, because to me, out of all the kids on the team, he has the prettiest shot, best flip, best rotation, best release, arch, all of it. It's perfect, but it doesn't go in a lot. And I don't understand it. Other than the fact, maybe I've started paying attention. Maybe he shoots it long, because the day he starts to knock down jump shots the way he did last year, look out. because then the floor is going to open up for him. I think teams are going to dare him to shoot the ball a lot. They're going to back off him a little bit. So, and I know Illinois doesn't like to shoot twos. So, I mean, he's got to figure that out. But I think his overall game, you're right, he's quiet. You know, he rebounds well for a big guard. For all the people who criticize him defensively, he makes up for from a rebounding standpoint, because some guards don't do that. He does a really good job of that.
Yeah, and I do think just for people who are not maybe haven't coached basketball or something, people going away from Kasparis and playing off him a little bit, that's huge, because if he gets to drive with his vision, he can kill you on the drive without shooting. But if people are going to say they're going to dare him to shoot from outside, and they give him a little bit more of a cushion, he can't go in and cut people apart with passing, et cetera. So that's where that gets kind of a challenge for him. Now, the other guy, I'm sorry, but, I knew he was going to be good.
I know what you're going to say. I was going to beat you to it. Go ahead.
I didn't think he was going to be this good.
Mike,
I'm telling you, Will Riley, I'm going back. Is there a better freshman, at least starting off, than him that we can remember?
Yes, I will say one. That's a long time ago. Kewan Garris was a type of guy. He was a guard, but Kewan I think he, at one point in time in his career, was the only freshman to score 30 points back-to-back games. So okay. Kewan is a guy, but that's what you said. Remember, and that's me showing my years of age at 98. He was a really good player. But Mike, Will Riley, I will argue with anybody. Find me 4 other better freshmen in the country than him. Now, Cooper Flagg is good, but Will Riley's not far off. That kid is, I could be wrong, but I think he's the leading scorer on the team right now. And he only played 18 minutes today. The game is natural for him. Now, we knew he was good, but I didn't think he would come in as a kid that reclassified to do what he is doing. The game seems easy for him. And Mike, I don't know if you noticed or the fans noticed who watched the game or who's listening to this driving home. At the end of the game, he was playing the point guard position. You don't think the scouts see that? Now, he won't play point guard in the NBA, but it shows his skill set that he can put the ball on the floor, and it looks easy for him.
Yeah, and I got to be honest with you. He just does so many things, and his anticipation is the amazing thing. Now, physically, he's not a grown man yet in that respect. I mean, he's tall, but when he thickens out, holy cow, because he really sees the court well. He understands where he's supposed to be on help defense. Now, he doesn't seek out contact because he's not the strongest guy in the world, but yet he manages to get inside for rebounds and somehow be in the right place to get the ball. I have been so impressed with him on multiple levels.
Mike, I want to make a comparison, and I want people to Google this because I'm not lying. Kevin Durant is one of the best basketball players to ever play in the NBA, and I remember him coming out of high school or college. I can't remember. People were laughing at him because he couldn't bench press 200 pounds because he was too thin. Sometimes it doesn't matter. I mean, because if you put weight on him, his game may be different. He may not be able to get to the basket as quick. So if I'm not saying that weight doesn't matter, but for some people, and no, I'm not saying Will Riley's Kevin Durant, but I'm going to tell you this, he's one of the top freshmen in the country, which I just said. You can look at all the analytics, but if you put 15, 20 pounds on him and it doesn't work and affects his game, what good is that? So right now, yes, you want to see him be able to defend a little bit better, guys who are stronger than him, but that's going to come with age too. You got to remember, this kid should be in high school right now.
Yeah, and again, I have been nothing short of amazed by what he has there. Sorry, I'm just doing a quick Coke Zero break here. Make sure I got my whistle wet enough to talk through these. Yeah, as I look at Riley, I guess I've been very excited by him, and I guess overall, this whole team, I think now is just a matter of defining roles and then handling pressure. To me, I think the pressure D that they're going to get against Arkansas will be fantastic. because I think that's what people are going to go after them pretty hard on, is trying to put pressure on them and basically getting hands on them, physically trying to move them off of a line is going to be what they have to deal with. And they're not going to get instantly better at it, but over the course of time with some experience, they will.
I'm going to tell you, my philosophy as a coach and what I've always been taught, teams that pressure you turn it back on them. Nobody likes to be pressured. So my philosophy is if they don't like to be pressured, you make the officials call fouls, and you put the ball on the floor early in the game and attack the basket. Because if they allow Arkansas to dictate tempo, the officials are going to call it that way. But I don't think Illinois is going to be afraid. I was impressed against Alabama. That was one of my concerns, was them not being able to handle the moment. I can honestly tell you that when teams see them, and once they know that Illinois is not going to go out and they're not going to just get rid of the ball and turn the ball over 45,000 times, I can honestly tell you, Mike, what's going to help them is to attack pressure, put the ball on the floor. But when you attack it, you have to make the free throws. You cannot walk out there and expect them to just roll over, because that's not going to happen. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna. So
no, I agree, and I do think you're going to have to prove to these other teams that it doesn't bother you, and until you do, I think you're going to see a steady diet of that.
Yeah, without a doubt you will, but I think they handled it. I mean, I know a lot of people, and this was a game today, but a lot of people, if you listen to Coach Underwood when he talked about the Alabama game on Twitter, they make their free throws and don't turn the ball over as 13 times. Mike, they win. Put that in perspective. They played the number 2 team, and everybody was mad because they were down 16 points, what have you. Make free throws, make layups, and don't turn the ball over that much, and you win the game. Yeah. It's not, and those are things that you can control, not the opponent, not the coaching aspect of it. So, having said that, that's why I'm not concerned. Alabama game, yeah, I thought so, but now they play Arkansas. I would expect them to play better. I expect them to win this time. This is the one game I expect them to win. I'm not going to be the loser to pick against them like I did the football team today, but I'm telling you, I think they're going to win, and I think you're going to see a much different effort. And I don't want to rehash what we said, but you and I have been a big Morez fan, and I think games like Arkansas, Morez Johnson shines in those games.
Well, when it comes down to especially guys who are just trying to physically push you around, and they're going to try to just out athlete you. Good luck trying to do that to Morez. I mean there's a lot of things that he can do, and that is one that he will certainly be ready to. He'll be ready to do. So I think in that respect, I think we're, in a really, really good place. And I do think that him and Ivisic on the same together, I think is an interesting look for teams, because you've got 2 guys who are really big, 2 guys who can move around, and they just have different ways of using it. Morez is more of the sledgehammer, and Tomislav's a little more nuanced, but I like having them on the floor, even for a few minutes, just to dictate to another team what you want them to do and let them react to you, as opposed to the other way around.
Well, Mike, on the other side of that, now against our Alabama, Big Ben only had 1 rebound. So if you have a guy that's 7'1", and the Ivisic is really a legit 7'1", then you have a 6'10" Morez Johnson, and if you have a Big Ben from Rickhouse, that's 6'9". That is a huge front line. Ben had 4 rebounds today. It wasn't a lot, but you know what?
Good to see, though.
It really is. It was comparable to a few of the other players, so it's better than 1. At his size, 5 or 6 rebounds a game at his position, you'll take that. So if you have 3 guys out there with size like that, and then you have Kasparis out there and Will Riley, that is a huge lineup. Think about it, the smallest guy in that lineup is Kasparis, and he's 6'6". That could be really dangerous.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And Ked, you're the king.
Thank you,
we
Mr. Zach.
I just
You
I've
know what?
been
I respect this guy. This guy's followed me since I've been on Twitter. So much love to you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah. So Zach knows what he's talking about. Good. So that's the type of confirmation bias I'm famous for. If it's somebody we agree with, he's great. So now, did anything jump out at you? There any concerns that came out at you based on what you saw?
If I had one concern, and it's not a huge concern, I just think this team, if they could get Ben to shoot the ball the way we know he can, Mike,
Yep.
he's the only person, and cut spares just to maybe knock down one or two more jump shots, the light's going to turn on. It's going to be a different game for this team. I'm telling you. Ben, I mean, yeah, he was 3 for 10 today. I don't care because, when they play Monday, he may be, 5 for 10 or 5 for 11, what have you. If they could get more productive from him and say he's not 2 for 8 from 3, which he was today, and he's 5 for 8, that, and then you get another 3-pointer from KJ instead of 1 for 4, he's 2 for 4. Those are game changers. If that's anything I want to see, if you ask me if I could have an early holiday wish gift for holidays, that's what it would be, just to see those two guys knock down shots, because I've seen it myself and I know for a fact how good they are, and that would just be a difference maker, because you got Will Riley and you got KJ, who's extremely confident. He's not looking to go out there just to be a robot anymore. And you got Drayvon Gibbs Longhorn as another guy I just refuse to give up on. I think that kid's talented. I think he brings a lot to the table. And I think at crunch time on the road, if you're at Mackey Arena, when it's loud, you're going to need somebody like him. Or when you go to Indiana, Drayvon Gibbs Longhorn is going to be a guy that they're going to have to count on as well. So those are just little things that I see, Mike, because they're not far off. Like I said, I was the guy harping on the free throws. And I'll be honest with you, they could have won that game. Even if they didn't, it would have been a heck of a lot closer.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Jumping tracks here real quick is, or at least before I do that, anything else on the thoughts of this game right now?
Other than the fact that they did what they were supposed to do, I thought they were going to put up 100, but again, the three-point shooting was kind of off today. But I don't have it. Today's game is the type of game, I know the coaches will never admit it because they're professional, unlike the guy at Providence right now. You don't make comments like those, those comments. You be professional and you respect all opponents.
Why don't you let people know what comment you're talking about from Coach Cooley?
Okay, well, I'm gonna be blunt, and I don't care. I hope somebody show him this. I don't really care. What he did was during a press conference after a game, he made a comment about how much better of a defensive player Jaden Epps is, who was a former player at the University of Illinois, and then he took a shot and made some nasty comments about the Illinois basketball program in a nutshell, saying in cuss words, which I'm not going to use, that what the Illinois program is. Number one, that's classless, number one. And number two, I don't give a damn what you think. How many freshmen are great defensive players? Jaden Epps is no longer a freshman. Of course he's going to get better. Mr. Cooley, that's common sense. If he would have stayed at Illinois, he would have been a better player. And I'm going to call a spade a spade. Every kid who leaves, it's not all roses. Some kids, it's just not fit for them. And I know Mr. Epps wasn't happy, and that's fine, but don't get out and criticize the program, because guess what? They gave you a place to play, and I think, I could be wrong, but I think Jaden committed to Illinois he committed to Providence before. So having said that, worry about your own program. Going out and talking about coaches when you're not even in the same conference, you're not going to play them, you're not in the tournament, you want to talk about Jaden Epps' growth, give yourself credit. But to knock Illinois down and say something like that is classless. I don't care if it's Iowa, Northwestern, whoever. Mike, you don't do it, and I don't understand the point behind it. And then to go on Twitter to apologize. Here's a problem that I have, and I want this to be known. My philosophy is this: if you said it, you meant it. Don't get on Twitter and say, oh my gosh, please feel sorry for me, I didn't mean to say it. BS. You said it, you meant it, own it. So it's a bad look. I didn't like it, and all freshmen are going to get better. Look at how much better Draymond Gibbs Longhorn is from last year to this year. Look how much better Kofi got his freshman year. Ayo Dosunmu got his freshman year. Some people are thinking right now, how much better this team would be if you could get Will Riley back, if you could get Casparis back, if you could get Thomas Law back. Those guys become freshmen, they become sophomores. So they do grow up. That comment was stupid, and I didn't like it, and I don't care if he wants to challenge me about it. When he calls me, I'll step up to the plate because it was not called for.
Well, and there's obviously maybe some sour grapes from Ep's standpoint, and every time I don't care what side it is, when a coach tells you about a player who transfers or a player who transfers tells you about the coaches, that's just one side of the story. And there's also the other half and that's just the reality of the situation. So if a coach goes out and says, well, we didn't really need him anyway, well, there's probably two sides to that comment. And when somebody says, well, a coach didn't do this, that, or the other thing, well, you might get a little more information if you got the other side. So, but it seems like he's listened to one side of it and made his judgment. I don't know what advantage he has of airing that out. And, that's the type of thing that if he can get his team into I'm not saying he will, but if he can get his team into the NCAA tournament, they'll just magically end up in the same bracket so that we can watch that game.
Well, I'll tell you what, from a talent standpoint, he shouldn't say anything. I don't regret what I said either. I'm not going to contradict myself. I said what I said. I want to stand on it. I just don't, it made no sense to me. You're at Georgetown. You're trying to get into the tournament. Illinois is going to be a team that's going to be expected to be in the tournament. He transferred, whatever the reason was, whether it be he wants to be closer to home, not happy for whatever the reason, that made no sense to me. Now, having said that, again, freshmen are always going to get better. And then your sophomore and your junior year, you're going to get better. Let's look at Terrence Shannon. Look how much better that kid got every single year. Until that stupid incident that happened, he probably would have, well, obviously, he would have made first team All-American.
He would have been runner-up to Zach Edey, the player of the year.
Yes. So, and this is a guy, so don't say that because you're around that that you're a freshman, you want to criticize a coach because how he runs a practice or because how he runs his program. Let me tell you, Coach Underwood is tough. So what? You know that. And when the guys who recruit for Brad Underwood, all those coaches and all those parents that Celtic Prince talks to, they know what they're going to get when they play for him. They know that he's going to be a tough guy. He's going to challenge you. And most of them like that because if they don't, they're not going to come. I just talked to Brandon Lee, a kid that committed Mike Sorry, and his dad said the same thing. I don't want my son to go to a school to be coddled because guess what? When he leaves, he's not coming back home. And I want him to be prepared. Some coaches will just push you along. I'm not saying Brad's berating players because if you talk to him not one-on-one, he's the nicest guy in the world. He challenges this kid, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and look, like I said, there's a lot of you run into a lot of sour grapes and a lot of emotions when people switch schools. And there are times when coaches are frustrated because they didn't want somebody to switch schools. So again, if you're not getting both sides of the story, it's you and I've talked about this before. There's always other details that are out there. So when I hear these things, I go back to Joey on Friends. He said the point is moo because nobody cares what a cow thinks.
Well, I like that, but in this situation, I'll be done with it. I do know, I understand, but I'm not at privy to say why Jay Neps is not in Illinois. That's unprofessional on my part. That's not fair for Jay Neps or his family, Illinois or Georgetown. I will say this. I do know why the situation was the way it was, and that's why I'm so adamant about why he did what he did.
Yeah, and like I said, in the end, we just have to get into a position where once a guy leaves, I always I enjoy the players who chose to go to Illinois, and I want them to have really good success unless they're playing the University of Illinois. Then I want them to suck. But other than those days, like Sky Clark, as far as I'm concerned, he wants to average 1,000 points a game. I wish him all the luck in the world. Unless he's playing against the Illini, then I want him to have a bad night. But that's just the way I look at it. Now let's pivot over for a second. Talk a little bit about what we have going on the football side. I got to be honest with you, kid. You cover recruiting. Can you tell people out there what you hear from recruits after an Illinois victory and what a victory means to these kids who might be down to just 2 or 3 schools and they're trying to make this decision on who they are going to trust their future to?
Okay, I'm going to pull off my Kool-Aid glasses and I'm going to be really honest with people here. Years ago, when Illinois was recruiting, and I don't mean this in a negative way against the MAC schools, but it was Illinois, Miami, Ohio, Western Michigan, all these schools. That is no longer the case. I know for a fact the reason that the Illinois athletic director hired Brett Bielema, Shauna Green, Brad Underwood, all of his coaches, is to build a program. What I'm hearing from all these kids now, go back and you can Google whatever site you want to look at, or you can message me on Twitter, or it would be really nice if you got a subscription to Illini Guys and ask me. I'm going to tell you, I have never seen, since I've been covering Illinois athletics as long as I have, kids, Illinois is beating out Nebraska, they're beating out Michigan, they're beating out Penn State, they beat out Oregon, they beat out some outstanding football programs that want these kids. Now, there's a complimentary offer. I can put an offer out there to Mike Hagley and say, you know what, Mike, I think you're a good player. I'm just going to offer you the scholarship. That's not what I'm saying. Illinois is battling Texas. They're battling Florida. They're battling Georgia for some of these kids. Go look at their offers and who they're picking from. So, Mike, to answer your question, the reason why it's different, I know people may not think Brett is a personable guy. I don't talk to him that much, and he's from my hometown, but I can tell you this. Every parent, every recruit that I talk to, they will tell you when they talk about this family thing, because everybody gives just the politically correct answer. I want a family environment. I want to be able to get along with my coaches, blah, 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 blah. These kids mean it. They give me examples and say to me, there are kids out there that have been on that campus, Mike, that don't have offers from the University of Illinois, and they've said to me this: you would have thought I had an offer from Michigan and Ohio State. They treated me the way they did everybody else. That doesn't happen at every place. Some of these kids are in awe just because of the fact that Illinois is recruiting them. Some of these kids are in awe because when they get there on campus, every team has a position room, running backs, receivers. Brett Bielema is involved in every kid that's on that campus. It doesn't matter who you are. And the parents love that because some of these coaches, they make a lot of money and they're too big and they just think their assistant coaches are going to do it. That's why the recruiting is changing. And I can assure you, as long as he's there, and I had an argument with one of my friends today who I know is listening to this podcast. He's a Michigan fan. All he kept talking about was 4-star recruits and 5-star recruits. My comment to him was this: you won a national title last year. Your team's not very good this year. You lost to Illinois, a team who doesn't have a bunch of 5-star recruits who are slowly climbing the ladder. Then he wants to show me the recruiting rankings. Well, those are nice, but you can also build players. And Illinois has a great developmental program. Mike, that's the other thing I hear a lot of recruits say. They want to be developed. And Brett Bielema has a nice stamp on putting guys in the NFL. I know there was a long rant, but I'm telling you, I want the fans to understand. You go Google and see who they beat out for some of these top programs. Luke Altmaier didn't have to go to Illinois. I mean, he could have went to a lot of places, and he's there. The quarterback they just signed, Michael, the kid out of Florida, kid could have went to a lot of places. He threw for 365 yards last week. Could have went anywhere. And guess where he's going? He's a 2026, and he committed to the University of Illinois. And when you talk to this kid, they don't remember what happened 15 years ago when they won negative games. No such thing as that. But my point is, they see the now. They see the personable. They know they're in the Big Ten. They see the fan base. The fan base, to the people listening, you guys should give yourself more credit, because these recruits will say to me, as soon as I commit to Illinois, I made Illinois on my list, my Twitter page changed or my Instagram changed, because the Illinois fans come out of the woodworks to support their program. Sorry for the long rant, but I'm passionate about recruiting.
No, that's what I wanted to know, because I look at it again as a guy who's more of a numbers guy. We talked about it: 2001, 1989, and 1983. Do you know what those 3 years are, kid?
Uh, the last time they went to Rose Bowl, is that what it was? I don't remember.
No, it's the last. Those are the 3 seasons that Illinois has won double-digit games. And here Brett Bielema was picked 13th in the Big Ten. And if he can beat Northwestern and then win a bowl game, Illinois wins 10 games for the 4th time in the history of the program.
And it's hard because you get frustrated with the way they play, and I have too. I get frustrated when they come out. I like to see them just blow teams out, but that's not his style. But at the end of the day, Kedrick, shut up. He's won 8 games, man. I mean, what am I going to – I mean, he's won 8 games, and he has a chance to win 9. So I can sit and be critical, but who does that help? I mean, because I want to see them run the ball more. I just told you before we started this podcast, I would like to see them get more yards on first down. Yeah, that's been critical, but guess what? They won today. So,
well, and I thought for the maybe first time in a while, I thought the offensive line is starting to play up to the level we expected. Only 1 sack against Altmaier, and it was late in the game. And then the other part is that you had the running game. Now, it wasn't perfect, but with Altmaier's legs and using some designed rollouts and designed quarterback options, but they were moving the ball on the ground. I felt like they made a little bit of progress, which hopefully they can continue next week in Wrigley Field. And that would be a fantastic place to get a big victory for the Illini.
Mike, I want to say something. You and I have been around, and one of the reasons I picked Illinois to lose today, because I've been around long enough to know Illinois does Illinois things and find a way to lose. I can honestly tell you, Barry Lunny Jr., to me, is one of the best offensive coordinators they've ever had. And here's why I'm going to say that. 5 years ago, Illinois would have, if they were down, I knew the game was over. I looked at my daughter and I said, we're going to score. She's like, Dad, there's a minute and 8 seconds on the clock. I'm like, if Luke doesn't get sacked, they're going to get down the field and score. That dude is creative. Everybody in the country know who's getting the football, and somehow they're able to get open, to get Pat Bryant open or Zachary Franklin open, and they hold the ball to the end of the game. He runs really, really good stuff. Barry Lunny Jr. doesn't deserve enough credit for how good he is. I've never been so confident in them marching the ball down the field. The only game where I was kind of baffled was against Oregon. Other than that, I've been impressed with his play calling when he's called it. I know they're trying to run the ball up the middle, and then, maybe that's on the players. I don't know. I mean, I'm frustrated with that, but I think he's really good, and he's an important piece of this program. Losing him would be awful right now, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm really hoping to see him come back next year, because if you take a look at what he's doing as he gets confidence, I think it'll be fantastic as he grows and just develops. I feel like we're watching the creation of a monster here, because Luke Altmaier came here as a guy with a lot of potential, and now all of a sudden he's showing us the potential, and that to me is really, really scary.
He looks comfortable, and I think he can just throw the ball up and know Pat Bryant's going to go get it, or Zachary Franklin is just going to go get it.
As long as that wind doesn't knock it down. That Rutgers wind was as brutal as some of the days we remember back in Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, and they adjusted well to it. I mean, I'm just, enjoy this. And, I'm not going to sit and nitpick even the basketball program. You got 3 programs right now, and even the volleyball program. I mean, I know they lost a couple of games as of late, but they're not the bottom feeders anymore. And I know Illinois fans are used to seeing that. You know what? This could shake out to where Illinois could finish no worse than 5th in the Big Ten out of 18 teams, and they were picked 12th, 13th, or 14th out of everybody. People are going to start giving Brett Bielema credit. The guy at Nebraska, yeah, they're all flashing the pans, and you give Kirk fans credit, and they all deserve it. But you got to stop overlooking Illinois. And I'm really curious to see how this is going to look next year because his teams are always competitive. He will put a product on the field that's competitive, and that's what you wanted. That's why he was hired.
Yeah, that is clear. He does not tend to. I mean, he just doesn't screw around with some of that stuff, and I think there's a certain confidence that he has, and I think now with what he's learned, I think you learn a little bit. Arkansas didn't go the way he wanted, and I think you learn from failure, or you're doomed to repeat it. Clearly, he's not repeating it. And I think he's learned there. And I think his time at the NFL was very valuable to help Coach Bielema. And as you look around the Big Ten, you see some interesting things going on because I don't know what happened to Wisconsin today, but they totally PP'd themselves at Nebraska, getting just hammered. And Northwestern, had they played well against Michigan, they would have next week against Illinois would have been their shot to make it to a bowl. And now they're going to be now they've got no shot of doing that. You have Penn State and Minnesota beat Illinois. I know there's a lot of people who are frustrated, but I thought Minnesota was a better team than what they their record is, and I think without some injuries they might have another win or two. So when you start looking at what has been accomplished by Brett Bielema, I think if it wasn't for Kurt Signetti, he might be the Big Ten Coach of the Year this year.
Oh, without a doubt, you couldn't when you're picked at the bottom half of the Big Ten, and you're finishing fifth. One of my friends said, "Oh, they haven't played anybody." You don't get to pick your schedule. And some of the teams that they beat, they were ranked at the time. You know what? Everybody thought Rutgers, myself included, was going to have a cakewalk to 8 or 9 wins because of their schedules. Now, I will admit injuries hurt them a little bit.
Yeah.
But at this stage of the season, Mike, everybody's got a lot of injuries. I'm worried about Coleman today. I mean, Seth Coleman, his shoulder, he looked bad coming off the field today. So that's happening. We lost our best, that's unprofessional. Illinois lost their best running back, Caden Fagan. So injuries are part of the game. Football is a physical sport. The great thing about it, if they can get past Northwestern without injuries, they're hopefully going to be playing on New Year's Day. I mean, how great is that? They have a chance to play on New Year's Day. What I don't want to see is them play Georgia or Texas A&M, which is what I heard is possible. But either way, no matter what happens,
or Ole Miss, buddy.
That'd be good for Luke Altmaier. So,
that's a storyline, right? Jackson Dart versus Luke Altmaier.
Ooh, I like that.
Lane Kiffin. That you couldn't get two coaches who are more different than Lane Kiffin and Brett Bielema.
Yeah. But that'd be a good storyline for about a month. And just think about it. When this is over, we're going to have a month to talk football. The recruiting is going to pick up, which is why you want to join the Illini, guys. It's a great gift for holidays. I'm telling you, for a friend or someone, a family member, recruiting is recruiting. We have up-to-date articles. Matt Stevens is traveling. I cover games. Brad Sturdy cover games. So the newspapers are great. But if you want instant information, it's always going to be online, and we provide that. So, and I know during that month of December, when recruits can constantly call Illinois and say, hey, and also, Mike, there may be some transfers. So Illinois is trying to flip some kids. I don't have any names right now top of my head, but I know they're trying to flip some kids. So kids will be saying, hey, I'm not coming back to my school. I want to transfer. Now Illinois is attractive, and they have a chance to get some of those kids.
Well, and that's the intriguing part, because the transfer portal, I believe, starts it opens on December 8th and goes through like the 29th. So Illinois will be in bowl mode, and Illinois will have to be kind of, I mean, I have no idea how the coaches managed to prepare a team for a bowl and then work the transfer portal all at the same time. And of course, the other thing that you're not having much of this year is usually you have coaches getting fired and then new coaches getting hired and putting together their staff while you're getting ready for a bowl. But boy, if Illinois could find a way to get just one or two guys, if Brett Bielema's got a little bit of dollars to play with in that, I would think that there would be some real opportunities for them to go ahead and have some kids who want to make it to the NFL, because Brett Bielema's putting kids in the NFL, and he doesn't do what Ohio State does, where you get, 5 5-stars and 17 4-stars, and then, get a lot of guys drafted. Brett Bielema's doing it by identifying talent
And
that
player
other people
development.
don't see and then developing them. So that's a big deal. And of course, when Ked talks about the subscription, the IlliniGuys.com, all you need to do is you go there, you get everything that's behind the paywall you get. So a lot of times if you click on our stuff on Twitter, you'll see that if you're not a member, it'll say you don't get to read this. We apologize, but it costs money to go to games and so, and fly to Oregon and get hotels, etc. So it's $99 a year. And we basically have kept that line since we opened. And so even though there's been inflation, not with our stuff, and we try to make it a value for you, but you get articles early, you get the whole article, and you get those message boards. And that is huge. And if you're watching right now on YouTube, click and subscribe to the channel. That helps us because every person who watches this, it gets a little bit of dollars. Again, helps us cover the Illini sports well. And as Josh Whitman's putting pressure on everybody because he keeps hiring good coaches, that then we have teams that are better and people they get interested in winners, and so that's exciting to have all that going on. Any other thoughts on football as you kind of see what's going on around the league, so to speak?
Mike, what I want to see right now, what I'm really intrigued about is the transfer portal. That is huge to me right now because I think my philosophy with the transfer portal with football is that you don't just get guys in the transfer portal because they went to Texas or Oregon and they never see the field. I want to see them go get players to improve their program, guys that have been who's been on the field and guys who's played in games. That's what I'm really, really focusing on. The high school part, I think they've done a good job, and I know they're not done, but they need to pick some pieces up, and like we said, I'm not going to be disrespectful to certain players on offense or defense, but they need to seriously, pick up the pieces with some things that other programs have. If you miss a right tackle or if you miss a defensive end that's injured, you're not going to lose much by bringing someone else in. So that's my big thing I'm going to focus on with football right now. Basketball right now is in a great spot. They have a great schedule. They're going to play on Turkey Day. My one complaint about that, and this is kind of about the Alabama game. I don't like the back-to-back games because if Illinois is playing Turkey Day and if the game's on CBS and the Bears are playing, if there's a 30-minute overlay, fans aren't going to see the game. I'm not cool with that. They need to figure something out for that because that's not fair to the teams. Maybe change you give a 30-minute window. I get it, but I'm not cool with them fans missing games because I got to see the start of the Alabama game, and fans would have saw how well Casperas played to start the game. You would have seen why all these scouts were going after him. So, but anyway, that's my rant, man. Sorry.
Well, and also I do think you can get to the position where you can go to CBS, that app, and probably watch the game there before it comes on locally. And I know that Paramount Plus sometimes will have those games on in their entirety, so you don't have to worry about missing something, at least if you do that. But like I said, everybody, you have to invest a small fortune to go ahead and get those. That this game next week against Northwestern, I mean, they just got pummeled today up in Ann Arbor, 50-6. I don't want to make anything automatic, but boy, this would be one of the. I just don't see Northwestern being able to hang with this Illini team, and it might be rank up there as one of the most devastating Illinois losses if they were to lose to Northwestern. But I just don't see this Northwestern team having the talent to match up to Illinois.
Mike, it was a couple years ago at home. I don't remember, 1 or 2 years ago, maybe last year. I don't remember. Illinois clearly was the better team. It was at home and just got pummeled. I'm never going to say never against Northwestern, and I just can't. And as much as I know there's a rivalry between the schools, until that final horn sounds or say the fat lady sings, I'm not saying anything because Illinois has been a better team many occasions and come out on the losing end. So I don't want to see them, end the season on a loss, because that gives Northwestern momentum in recruiting. It could. They're building a new stadium. So, if you're the better team like they were today, in my personal opinion, you finish the game. And when you have a chance to put a wounded duck down, you finish it.
Yeah, and it would be good. It would be good to come in, with a big victory. Illinois has been able to shut the door when they play FCS teams, but they've not been able to do that as much with their Big Ten peers. And it would be really nice to see them close the door hard on that. Now with basketball, because it's in the middle of the season and players, if you play, you can't play on another team. Is there a transfer portal? Is there much activity? Do they do the transfer portal at this time of the year?
You don't see much of that, Mike. I know Dane Danger was the last kid that Illinois got halfway through the season. You don't see a lot of it, but I'll tell you what, the moves are being made behind the scenes. Unfortunately, some of these kids don't like what's happening to them already. Some of the parents don't like what's happening. So, and unfortunately, I don't make the rules, but if people think these coaches aren't contacting kids and through other people, you're kidding yourselves, because I'm telling you, it does happen. So I think Illinois, I do know they're going to get kids in the transfer portal next year. They always do. They may lose guys to the draft. They may lose guys to transfer for whatever reason. I hope not. I really hope not, but I know that's a possibility. That's just the nature of the game. I mean, you can't expect kids to stay on the roster. Rosters change. We talked about Alabama. They have, 13 scholarship players, and only 3 guys came off who stayed off their Final Four team. Illinois had 2. So it's the way the game is today. The old days of keeping your roster together and buying jerseys for 1 year, thinking the player's going to be there for 4 years, those days are kind of numbered.
Yeah, I think that's probably a hard thing for all of us old folks who are used to the way it used to be. And I it's just something we're going to have to deal with now. I do think that, we'll see. The only hope is for people who like the old style way is if there's any way Congress will look at the antitrust exemption coming back, which would then change everything. But I don't even know if members of Congress are going to want to flip flop that around. So I don't know if that'll be it. And then the final thing is does Illinois try to use this Wrigley Field matchup as an opportunity to go ahead and, let's say, get some recruiting? I mean, will people come and do unofficial visits in Chicago and make it a weekend? Because that would be pretty cool. Or how does that work when you get a marquee game like this that's a little bit outside the norm?
Well, if a kid who is considering Illinois, and they want to get into the game free or not pay for it, they're going to have to say they're interested in Northwestern to make Northwestern pay for it. So if a kid from, say, Michigan wanted to come watch Illinois Northwestern, he's interested in Illinois, they're not going to be able to get him in the game. I do know a couple of years ago, I'm positive, I don't remember who the kids were, but there were a number of kids who went to Northwestern, because I think Illinois blew Northwestern out a couple of years ago at home at Northwestern, and there were Illinois recruits there. So, and sometimes they recruit the same kids, but not a lot of them. And it's kind of weird. When I look at some of these offers, you don't see a lot of the same kids Illinois and Northwestern going after anymore. Illinois is headed down south a lot more now, which is kind of good. So, but I'm not saying that there won't be kids there, because I'm sure there will be some there. And even if they're there for Northwestern, I'm sure they're going to be taking in what Illinois is, what they're doing. But they won't be able to go on the field and talk to the Illinois coaches. They may be able to say hi, but not like they would be if it's a home game. Because when I go cover games in Champaign, Brett walks out there, he'll give a kid a high five, and they'll shake his hand, and all the coaches. So they won't have that, but they'll know if they're interested in Illinois and they're thinking about going to school there, you can bet they're going to let the Illinois coaches know that they're going to be there.
Yeah, that's cool, because there's an opportunity there. And of course, then do they have any options with the bowl game to do anything that way, or how does that work? Of course, Illinois doesn't go to a ton of bowls, but boy, I tell you, it's got to be great to have kids across the U.S., high school kids, who are looking, where can I play football next year, the year after, or, that type of thing, to see Illinois playing on January 1st.
If they want to see them play like we think, the both of us think, and most people think Illinois is going to be playing in Florida, if those kids want to make that drive, that's on the kid. The university they're not allowed to host a recruiting visit at a bowl game. That's just something that they don't do. But I can assure you, in probably a couple of years, it'll be legal like everything else is. But right now, that's why getting them on campus, the kids that they're recruiting, and if there's some kids who are thinking about transferring, they will get to come to Champaign. They'll get to look at that beautiful Smith Center. They'll get to see how practice is done. They'll get to see how the player development is done. That's why it's important, because if you're not in a bowl game, you just have guys doing it on their own, not structured. Now there's coaching going on. So the parents are coming in, and, the coaches are talking to the players, and then the players are talking to the parents and say, hey, this is why we do what we do. Going to a bowl game from a recruiting standpoint is priceless. You can't put a dollar sign on it.
Perfect. Well, I tell you what, Ked, we will talk then at a later date. Of course, we've got, again, a whole variety of games coming up. With Monday night, coming with Little Rock, and of course, we've got the game on Thanksgiving Day. Then you have Northwestern, so there's going to be a lot of fun covering the Illini. And I'm telling you, the 20s belong to the Illini, just like the 80s used to belong to the Illini. So it looks like it's going to be a great time. Until next time, folks, go Illini.